and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about what you need to do if you want to purchase a home. Right now, our market today, we only have 32 homes on the market, which is not very many at all. So if you were thinking of buying a home in the next 30 to 4 months, 6 months, you need to go find a lender and get pre-qualified right away. That is the most important thing you can do. There are two types of qualifications. One is pre-qualified, where you go to a mortgage broker, you go to a bank, they run your credit, and they send you a little piece of paper that says you are pre-qualified. To get totally qualified or pre-approved is when you've given them your tax returns, your bank statements, your W-2s, history of where you've lived the last 2 years, your work history, all your checking accounts, savings accounts, 401ks. Then they can totally qualify you. All you have to do is find a home. In today's market, that's where you really need to be before you start to look, because everything's so competitive. When you get out there, you've got to be ready to make your best offer, put your best foot forward, and buy a home. So I have some questions here. Some people have asked some questions that if there's anything to consider about buying a new home or an old home. It's really your preference. Some people love the newer built, some people love the older homes. The best thing to do is to go to your lender, get pre-qualified, pre-approved, set your payment. You might be qualified to buy a $250,000 home, but if that's not in your budget, you don't want to do that. If you want to pay $1,000 a month or $700 a month, you set your budget, and your lender will be able to tell you how much home you can afford. So, are there any things to be aware of in a historic district? Not really. Sometimes you need to make sure your home is not in a historic district that you have to go by certain guidelines, how you paint, if you change windows. But most of the time, it's fine. You can go in and do what you want to do. Just check to make sure. And then what is the difference between a realtor and a licensed broker? All realtors are licensed in the state of Oklahoma. A licensed broker is just someone who's had a little bit more education, and they are now either a broker owner owns a business, a broker associate, which I am. You just have a little bit more training, a few more hours to get that degree or that license. And then what things do you need to take into consideration when choosing a realtor? That's a real personal question. You need to be able to have a relationship with the realtor you're using. Number one thing, before I was a realtor, I liked people who answered their phone. If I can't call you, if you don't answer, if you don't respond to my text, I really want to find somebody that does. So I understand we're all busy. Sometimes we can't talk as much as our clients would like to at that moment, but we should always respond. So you just need to find a realtor that you're comfortable with. I would hope that you would find one that has a little bit of experience, but you have to break into the business somehow. So some of us have no experience and some of us have years of experience. It's really a personal relationship to make sure that you can talk to that realtor, that they listen to you and answer your questions. Is it a good idea to get a second opinion in regards to a house inspection? Oh, house inspectors are everywhere. You always have the right to choose any inspector that you want to choose. You have to pay for those inspections. The seller will not pay for that. It's up to you to do an inspection to make sure the home you're getting is free of problems or little problems, so you don't get into a money pit. Call the inspectors. Have your realtor give you the number of some of the inspectors. They're all licensed. They're all home inspectors. And visit with them. See what they do. See how much they charge. And see, if you like them, if you can build a relationship with them. You can always just get a plumber, a heat and air guy, electrician, a septic tank guy, a roofer. You can do separate inspections instead of a whole house inspection. Most lenders require that you do a termite inspection, but you don't have to do a whole house inspection, but most lenders require that you do a termite just to make sure your home is okay in the state of Oklahoma. Termites are pretty big here, but they're nothing to be afraid of. You just have to get your home treated, and usually the sellers will do that if you find termites. So it's really okay, nothing big deal. Are there any telltale things to look for when viewing a house for the first time that it might have potential for expensive fixes, foundation repairs? Depending on the age of the home, If you walk into a home and you see major separation between the walls, and like in the corner of the walls, there's a crack. Cracks over doorways aren't that big a deal. Those are just stressed cracks. And in a home 60, 70 years old, we all have a few wrinkles. But if you do have a concern, there are structural engineers that will come out and look at the home for you, do an inspection, and let you know if pier work is necessary, or sometimes you have piers if you have slab, you have underneath beams that maybe have rotted away, but they can let you know what it's going to take to fix that if it needs to be fixed. Some cracks are just settlement for old homes, and there's nothing you can do about them because of the Oklahoma land. This is a good one. Anything I need to do to make sure my house payment does not change over time? Are there disadvantages to me having a fixed mortgage rate? Fixed mortgage rates you should always do. Unless you're going to be in the home for 2 years and then you're going to relocate, that's the only time I would even consider an adjustable rate, because they start out low, but they get really high. Otherwise, you always want to choose a fixed mortgage. Your payment should never go up for the life of the loan, except if your taxes raised or lower, which they usually don't, or your insurance raises. And sometimes your insurance will lower if you get a new roof that has impact resistant and gives you credit. Excuse me. Do I get homeowners insurance separately, or is that part of the mortgage? Homeowners insurance is part of your mortgage. That's just what I spoke about. It is separate. You get to choose your own insurance company. It's less expensive to you if you have your car insurance and your homeowner's insurance under the same insurance company. They give you a big discount for having a double policy. Otherwise, you're going to pay a lot of money if you get your homeowner's insurance at one company and your car insurance at another. It's in an escrow account, which every month part of your payment goes to pay your insurance and your taxes. Taxes are paid in arrears, so at the end of 2021, you will be paying taxes for the time you lived in the house from January 1st to December 31st, 2021. If you bought your home in June of 2021, you will pay a year's insurance up front at closing, and then your insurance will not be due again until June 2022. So your lender usually has an escrow account. So you'll have your regular mortgage payment, your interest payment on that mortgage, and then you'll have your escrow for your taxes and insurance. So you don't have to worry about coming up with that money at the end of the year. And another one here, how can I learn more about the neighborhood a house is in? I always tell my clients, drive through that neighborhood. Go through in the morning, go through in the afternoon, go through it late at night. See what's going on in the neighborhood. That will give you a pretty good indication of the type of neighborhood you're moving into. Check the police records. There's all sorts of things online that you can do and check to see, what the crime rate is. If there's any, persons in that neighborhood that you really don't want to be around. Everything is online. You can do all that. But the best way is to drive through the neighborhood, different times of the day and evening, and just see what's going on. See if the neighbors are out. See if there's children playing out. So if you have children, you'll have people to play with. So there's a big difference between banks who loan you mortgages and mortgage brokers. A bank is usually like Arvis Bank, Truity Credit Union here, just some of the banks that they have a place of business and they loan their money for mortgage loans. Usually that lender will not sell your loan to another company. They keep it in-house where you can make your payment there. Mortgage brokers, Quicken Loans, First Investment Company, there's several mortgage brokers here in Bartlesville. They have investors that you might get a better rate. There's different programs. If your credit's not really good enough or top credit, a mortgage broker can usually find you somebody who will take your mortgage. There's nothing wrong with using either one. You just need to find the one that you're comfortable with and go with that. It usually takes 30 to 45 days from the time you purchase a home or the time you put your initial contract in to the time you close. Go to the escrow company, pay your funds, and close on that home. So don't plan on closing in 2 weeks. It usually takes a good 30 to 45 days. You'll go out, you'll find your home, you have an inspection period that you can do any and all inspections that you would like to do. That's the time for you to look that house over really, really well. At the end of that inspection period, if there's a time period in there that you ask the seller to fix the items that your inspections came up with, keep in mind sellers don't have to fix anything, but usually they will if it's something that will keep them from selling the home. So after the inspection period, there's title work that the abstract company gets together, and your lender will send out an appraisal to make sure that your home is the value that you offered for it. So it's pretty much just to put the offer in, make sure you have all your paperwork into your lender, and just wait for the process to play out. Moving day. Most people here get their keys on the day they close. That should be considered your moving day. Sometimes there's circumstances where the seller might need to rent it back, you're not ready to move, but most people move in or at least get the keys to their new home on the day they close on the property. I know in some states they close on the property and it could be 30 days before you take possession. All that's negotiated in the contract, but it's usually the day that you close on your home. I was trying to think, is there anything else we can think of? It's pretty quick. You just have to be proactive in this market. You really have to make good offers. Your realtor should help you. And if you don't get the house that you put an offer in, don't get disappointed. There's probably 15 or 20 people trying for that same home. So you just need to hang in there, make good offers, and eventually you will get a home that you really like. Bartlesville is a small town. We don't have a lot of homes on the market. They're not building a lot of homes because the price of lumber and building materials is so high right now. It would be hard to build. But that's about it. Are there any questions?
Is it currently a seller's market or a buyer's?
Oh, it's definitely a seller's market. We are now looking at 8 to 10 offers on every house that's listed. It's pretty crazy out there.
So if you really want a house and it's a seller's market, how do you make yourself stand out?
How do you make yourself stand out as a buyer? There's not really any way you can. You need to be pre-qualified, pre-approved, so the seller knows that you're a qualified buyer. You can put a large earnest deposit down. That helps. You just have to be real proactive. And if you see a house on the market you like, get your realtor. Go look at it that day, because that house is probably not going to be there in 2 to 3 days, and you've missed out on that one. It's hard to say not to be picky because it's your home. It's a huge investment, and you want to make sure. But paint's easy. Paint's cheap. If you find a house that fits all of your needs, but perhaps you don't like the color, you can always change the color, and it's not very expensive to do so. Look for space. Look for good bones of the house. Make sure it's a home that you see yourself living in 3 to 5 years so you can get your money back. Home buying is an investment. Not that I'm against renting, and not everybody wants to buy a home. It's a big thing. If the toilet breaks, if the heat and air breaks, it's on you to take care of it. But it's an investment for your future. Most homes, you can, if you live there long enough, you can, make a quarter of your money, sometimes half, sometimes double your money if you live there all your life. It's an investment. It grows in time if you take care of it, and real estate's just hard to lose money on if you take care of it.
So since it's a seller's market and houses can go very quickly, if I wanted to buy a house, what do I need to have my ducks in a row to be prepared to be able to jump whenever a house comes up that I'm really interested in?
Okay, how to jump. You have to be pre-qualified. You have to be pre-qualified, that's mainly the big thing. When you ask to get all your ducks in a row, go to your lender, get a pre-qualification letter or a pre-approval letter. Make sure your realtor has that on hand. Most contracts today are signed DocuSign, real easy. It's just electronic signatures. So just get with your realtor, go look at the house, tell her you want to make an offer, make a good offer. Listen to your realtor. They've been out there every day in the market. They know what people are offering. And, keep your fingers crossed and pray that the seller chooses your offer, because the seller might have 12 offers in front of them, and they will choose what's best to them, what makes them the most money.
What's the difference when it's a buyer's market?
Buyer's market and a seller's market, the difference between that. Buyer's market is when there's a lot of homes on the market and very few buyers. And the buyers are a little bit, more careful. They're not in a hurry. And sellers get a good price. They get a fair price, fair market value. But the seller's market, houses are raising. The prices of houses are raising. Excuse me. When an appraisal comes out, they have to compare properties that have sold within a mile radius for the last 6 months. They have to compare prices to make sure the home you're buying has comparable prices out there that, granite versus granite, just to make sure that everything's okay, because the bank is loaning money on that house that they want you to pay it back. So they want to make sure their investment is worthy. So seller's market, they can choose who they want to sell to. They can pick the best money to make, and it's not always about how much money. Maybe it's the time frame. Maybe somebody is willing to wait, 30 days before they close, or 60 days before they close. Maybe somebody doesn't want the refrigerator. It all kind of makes sense. Whatever the seller's needs are, they're going to make sure their needs are met, because they have 8 or 10 people that want their home, and they're going to choose the best offer. In a buyer's market, you can ask for closing costs. Sellers are more willing to give a buyer things when they're having trouble finding a buyer that will purchase their home.
There's certain things that the seller has to disclose by law?
Sellers have to disclose everything they know about that home since they've bought it. It's an Oklahoma seller disclosure law, and it's a piece of paper they fill out. How old's the roof? Has it ever flooded? Have you ever filed an insurance claim that you didn't do the repairs? Does the heat and air work? They don't have to tell us how old the heat and air work. The only age we have to know is the age of the roof. How old is the roof? And you hope that most sellers are honest. You hope everything they put down there and more tell you the truth. But that's why it's important to get inspections, because not all sellers are honest. Not all sellers know. Sometimes you've inherited the house and you don't know anything about that house. And then we have a disclaimer that you can fill out. Just tells people, I know nothing. You're taking it at your own risk. It's always buyer beware. Do your inspections.
So when we talk about buying a house and counting the cost, it sounds like there's a lot of cost involved in buying a house, besides just the cost of the house itself.
Very good question. There's a lot of cost involved when you purchase a home. Not just, let's say I go offer $100,000 for a home. It's going to cost me whatever my lender charges. If I have a lender, I'm going to have to pay about $575 for an appraisal, another $400 to $500 for an attorney's opinion, $250 for a mortgage, $350 for a mortgage inspection, which is a mortgage inspection is kind of like a survey, but not really. It has a drawing of your house, where it sits on the property lines, to make sure there's no encroachments on your property, nor is that property encroaching on anybody else's. It's a safety net so you can get title insurance. You pay for that. You pay for a tax fee. And then the inspections are probably $450, anywhere from between $450 and $500. So there's lots of money involved, but it's well worth it in the end. You have to bring 3.5% to 5% down. There are programs for first-time home buyers that help you with that down payment. But your realtor should be able to send you in the direction that's the best for you to get a loan.
When you mentioned an attorney's opinion, what is that?
Attorney's opinion is, in the state of Oklahoma, we have an abstract. And that abstract tells the history of that property from dirt till right now. So an attorney reads every paper that was ever filed: mortgages, liens, marriages, deaths, transfer of property, to make sure everything was done legally and correctly. So when you go to sell the property, you can sell it, that there won't be any liens on the title that weren't found, anything outstanding, so that you have a clear title. Anything else?
So whenever you have successfully purchased a house, then what is put in your hands as far as your ownership?
Well, when you purchase a house, you just walk away with the key in the garage doors. However, the deed is recorded in the county courthouse, and it's put into your name, your spouse's. In the state of Oklahoma, if you own property, your spouse owns half of your property. They don't have to be on title, but they do have to sign off that they are aware that you've purchased that property or that you've sold that property. But it's all filed at the courthouse. So if you lose your deed, if you lose your title, don't worry about it. It's filed at the courthouse, a legal deed that you are entitled to hold that property. Any other questions?
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. If you have any questions, you can always reach me at REMAX. I'm Janet Riley. Or, of course, get a hold of your realtor, and they will be able to follow up and help you. Good luck in finding a home.
Okay, now, it takes a little